The Silent Fleet. The Silent Dominion had taken worlds without ever firing a weapon. No planetary bombardments, no fleets battering orbital defenses, only the silent, invisible sweep of the Concordance wave. A single pulse of psychic command and an entire population bent its will, submitting without resistance. Now, their fleet drifted above a blue-green sphere catalogued as Tier 3 emerging, primitive and fractured. The humans. On the flagship Orven, High Conductor THYSS stood in the neural chamber, tendrils resting lightly on the crystalline controls. "Begin the first broadcast," he ordered. His voice echoed through the ship's mind link, a unified thought rather than sound. Gentle strength, minimal energy. Their walls will be paper-thin. The wave descended. Invisible to human eyes, it poured through the ionosphere, slipping past cities, forests, oceans. It brushed across the minds of 8 billion souls. And nothing happened. No stilling of movement. No orderly compliance. Instead, a merchant in Karachi suddenly remembered the smell of his grandmother's bread and began to cry in the middle of a busy street. A mechanic in Detroit burst into laughter for no reason at all. In Tokyo, a student froze mid-exam, convinced for 3 seconds that every number on the page was secretly mocking her. THYSS frowned, or the siloed equivalent, and gestured for deeper scans. "This is irregular. Is there interference from the star?" "No, conductor," replied Siva, their most skilled telepath. The link reached every mind, but the responses are erratic. Erratic. Va's psychic form shimmered. "Permit me to show you." With a subtle push, Va entered the consciousness of a human, a middle-aged bus driver in Rio. He found no mental fortress, no disciplined order of thought. Instead, it was a storm. Smells, colors, words, fragments of memories, all tumbling over one another without sequence or logic. A children's song from decades ago looped in the background. Worries about fuel prices clashed with a vivid recollection of a first kiss. There was laughter, unprompted, followed by an ache of loss so raw it staggered him. Va tried to insert a command. "Stop the bus." "Submit." The human mind didn't refuse. It didn't even acknowledge. It simply flooded Va's senses with the taste of fried food, the feel of steering wheel leather under sweaty palms, and a sudden intrusive image of a cat wearing a birthday hat. Va screamed, psychically, and tore himself free. He collapsed physically, tendrils twitching. "It's chaos," he gasped, like trying to grasp water in a hurricane. THYSS stared at the human planet far below. This was not resistance in any trained sense. It was something far worse for a psychic conqueror. Unpredictability. He tightened his grip on the controls. "Prepare a second incursion. We will go deeper. We will find the order beneath their noise." Far below, a bus driver in Rio shook his head, muttering to himself in Portuguese. "Weird day." Then he kept driving. Noise in the mind. The neural chamber of the Orven was silent, save for the faint hum of the mind-link conduits. High Conductor THYSS loomed over the circle of telepaths as they prepared for the second incursion. The first wave had touched every human mind and found nothing but chaos. This time, they would dive deeper, past surface thoughts, into the subconscious where the concordance was meant to root itself. "Synchronize," THYSS commanded. The 10 strongest siloed telepaths interlinked, weaving their consciousness into a single, vast sensory net. Their target, a cluster of densely populated cities. The plan was to strike simultaneously, flooding hundreds of thousands of minds at once to shatter the collective will. The wave descended. At first, it seemed to work. They slipped past the conscious noise, past memories of breakfast and commutes, past fleeting distractions, and into the dream layer where thoughts swirled slower. Then the storm hit. Siva found himself inside the mind of a teenage girl in Nairobi. She was humming a pop song, the lyrics bouncing nonsensically, but each word was sharp with emotion. Va tried to impose calm, but the song morphed into another, a jumble of rhythm, memory, and joy that refused to quiet. Beside him, Sealan was pulled into the memory of an old man in Warsaw. Snow fell on cobblestones. A child's laughter rang out. Then, without warning, a crushing wave of grief as the man remembered a funeral decades past. Land staggered under the weight, unable to separate past from present. The human subconscious wasn't a still pool. It was a churning sea of contradictions, love tangled with fear, grief fused with hope. Every thought bled into another without walls or structure. A telepath screamed over the link. Sihal had entered the mind of a war veteran from Aleppo. The veteran's nightmares surged like living fire, not just images of violence, but the raw, unyielding determination to survive. Hal tried to withdraw, but the man's will clamped down, holding him in place as if daring him to try again. The Orvan's psychic net began to falter. Alien minds, accustomed to order and precision, found themselves fraying at the edges. Words they didn't understand bubbled up in their thoughts. Half-formed jokes, human slang, and flashes of inexplicable nostalgia seeped into their collective consciousness. The youngest telepath in the group, barely past his training cycle, broke the link entirely. I saw my own tendrils on a plate, he whispered aloud, covered in ketchup, and the human was laughing. Thryss clenched his feeding limbs, suppressing his own flicker of unease. He could feel it too, that creeping contamination. When the telepaths finally withdrew, half were trembling, the other half staring vacantly at the floor. They are not fortified, Vas said, his voice hoarse. They are liquid. Every command slips away. Every thought is tangled in 1,000 others. We cannot find the anchor point. Thryss looked once more at the blue planet below. The humans had no mental walls, but perhaps that was their defense. The cracks in their dominion. The council chamber aboard the Orvan was filled with a low, uneasy murmur. Siloed telepaths did not murmur. Their minds normally blended into a smooth, unified presence. But now, the psychic link wavered. Thoughts leaked, drifted, and collided in ways no Siloed had experienced in centuries. High Conductor Thryss observed the circle of senior minds. Our cohesion is failing, he said flatly. Human contamination is spreading through the network. Sevar's eyes, once cold and impassive, flickered with something almost like amusement. Contamination, he repeated, as if testing the taste of the word. I've begun dreaming, Conductor. Dreams I never had before. One involved chasing a small, fluffy animal. It was absurd, and yet, I did not wish it to end. Others shifted uncomfortably. Dreams were a human thing. The silo did not dream. It's more than dreams, Sealand said. I caught myself humming. In the middle of a link session. Humming. It is pleasing. Thryss snapped. You are losing discipline. But even as he spoke, he caught himself thinking of a string of human words that had no meaning to him. Coffee break. He didn't know what coffee was. He hated that he wanted to find out. In the lower decks, reports came in of telepaths arguing, something unthinkable for a species built on consensus. Fleet maneuvers began to drift out of sync. Orders were delayed or misinterpreted entirely. Then came the first direct human counterattack. It happened in New York, though the silo didn't know the name. A single human woman, unaware of a latent psychic potential, felt the alien pressure in her mind. She pushed back, not with training or precision, but with raw emotion, a white-hot surge of grief for her lost child, and the fury of someone who refused to surrender that pain to an outsider. The backlash ripped through the mind link like a lightning strike. 3 siloed telepaths collapsed instantly, their connections severed. The shockwave rattled every linked mind in the fleet. She broke the tether, Va whispered, stunned. A single human mind, untrained. Thryss felt the first thread of fear slip into his thoughts. The humans were not fighting with walls and defenses. They were fighting by being themselves, unpredictable, contradictory, and maddeningly alive. Prepare the concordance amplifier, he ordered at last. If we cannot bend them individually, we will drown the entire planet at once. No more subtlety, no more gentleness. The council obeyed, but not without hesitation. In the quiet after the meeting, Thryss reached for the fleet link again, only to feel it falter. Somewhere in the depths of the network, someone, or something, was laughing. And for the first time in his long service, he couldn't tell if the laughter came from a siloed or from a human memory he had accidentally made his own. Behold, humanity. The Orvan's neural chamber pulsed with an unnatural brightness as the concordance amplifier powered up. Across the fleet, every siloed telepath, thousands of minds, linked into one colossal psychic presence. The plan was simple: unleash a single wave so strong it would crush Earth Collective will in seconds. High Conductor THYSS stood at the center, every tendril wired into the control spines. On my mark, he ordered, his voice sharp despite the tremor beneath it. One mind, one command, total submission. The signal was cast. It fell over the planet like an invisible storm front, flooding every corner of the globe. In an instant, 8 billion human minds felt the alien presence, not as a whisper, but as an overwhelming demand. Obey. For a heartbeat, silence. Then came the pushback. Not coordinated, not orderly, but vast and unstoppable. In London, a nurse working a double shift pushed back with exhaustion-tinged stubbornness. Not now. In Cairo, a boy clutching his injured puppy filled the link with raw love and protectiveness. In Sao Paulo, a drunk man shouted a joke into the void, and the joke spread, warped, and multiplied across the psychic field. In Seoul, an old woman thought of her husband's smile from 50 years ago, and the warmth of that memory spilled into 100 alien minds at once. Billions of thoughts, emotions, memories, each unique, each impossible to control, surged upward, slamming into the alien network. THYSS staggered. The unity of the silo mind link began to fracture under the strain. Commands blurred. Identities wavered. He could feel human songs in his head, taste foods he had never eaten, see colors that didn't exist in his visual spectrum. The concordance wave twisted back on itself. One by one, alien telepaths broke away, some screaming, some laughing, some simply drifting off into private memories that weren't their own. Siva, still linked to the amplifier, whispered, "They are inside us. All of them. I can feel 1 billion lives, and I don't want them to stop." He severed his own connection, letting human noise flood him completely. Panic swept the fleet. Ships drifted out of formation. Without the mind link, the silo were clumsy, blind. THYSS tried to restore control, but in his own mind, a human child's voice was singing. He didn't know the words, but the melody lodged itself deep, warm and unshakable. It was over. Disengage, he ordered finally, the word tasting like defeat. The Silot fleet turned away from Earth, retreating into the dark between stars. Behind them, the psychic connection to humanity snapped, but not cleanly. Fragments of human thought still clung to them like bees, impossible to remove. On Earth, life went on. Most people never knew how close they'd come to conquest. A few sensitive souls swore they'd felt something, and somewhere, far away, alien defectors began the long journey back, chasing the strange, chaotic beauty of human minds. They came for our thoughts. They left with our humanity, and they will never forget it.